we are joined by Ty Neff, owner of Neff Machine in Los Angeles, California. He's a self-taught machinist here to share his story of how he went from motorcycles to 5-axis machining. My name is Patrick. You can find me on Instagram as @JobShopperTN.
And I'm Cameron from Machining is Cool. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd appreciate a 5-star rating.
I'm Bradley with Marvel Machining. If you're on YouTube, be sure to give us a like and subscribe to the Practical Machinist YouTube channel. How you guys doing?
Good. Good, man.
Hanging in there.
That's all we can ask for on a Wednesday afternoon, right?
Truly.
Yeah. Just got to get through this week.
Dude, we got so much snow. You guys get any snow?
Out here?
No.
No, not out there.
Yeah.
I wish, man. It's hot right now. It's 85 degrees outside.
Where are you at exactly? You're in LA, right?
I'm in like downtown LA.
So being downtown in the city like that, do you get? We're gonna go back to this, and we talk about it every time. Do you get a lot of walk-ins?
Yeah. I was thinking about this because you guys always talk about the walk-ins and the yahoos. It's funny because I think some of my walk-in work, and maybe some of it's like not literally walking in, like they'll kind of call and then walk in an hour later. But some of those have actually panned out to be surprisingly good customers.
Really?
So like as a rule, we don't turn it away. We definitely try and like, I'm not trying to advertise that I'm here. You know, if you Google us, it will show up on maps, but we don't have a sign or anything.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. Generally speaking, the walk-in work it's not usually amazing, but we've had some that have panned out to be like long-term customers where if I look back, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of glad I took that guy in and took that first job.
That's
Nice.
cool. Were they jobs that were like,
Nice.
seemed like real machining jobs, or was it something?
Some of it has been, well, and part of this is because of the way I kind of ended up doing this is like, I used to do more metal fabrication and like artistic welding. Basically, I was mostly working for artists. So a lot of my customers have kind of come from that world and ended up being machining customers. But some of them, it's almost like we will steer the project to become a machining project, even though it didn't really need to be.
Yeah. It's kind of a natural tendency, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, oh no, this should be billet.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking like, yahoos around here are farmers. I'm kind of scared of what a California yahoo is.
All sorts. Yeah. I mean, we had one we turned down yesterday, a walk-in, and it was like art. Help us with this sculpture. And I'm like, do you have any drawings? Do you have a model? No. Here's some pictures. I kind of look at it and I'm just like, we're not really that type of place.
I was going to ask you, what it's like doing some art machining or really even art fabrication. I've done a little bit of stuff that's like, I don't know if it's technically art. I don't know. It's for, like handbags and stuff like that. And I usually just get a rendering of what the guy wants and I have to model it all. And it usually ends up being way more in depth than I ever anticipate.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm already mentally, I'm like, I mean, it's not a legitimate part. Like there's no tolerances, so it shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah. That is the benefit, right? It's like, it's held to a totally different standard than regular machining work. Actually, one of our biggest customers that's kind of they've been a customer the whole time we've had the shop is an artist. But he's a pretty well-funded one. He's got some like corporate money behind it because it's got something to do with AI. But they basically come to us with pretty half-baked designs, like more just ideas. Last year we had a big job with them and it was like, I was calling them a jack in the box, but basically it's like a mechanical aluminum box that kind of opens that way. It's got a QR code camera in it. And so I guess the viewer is issued a QR code and you're going to walk into this room with a bunch of boxes. We made 35 of them and your code will open one of them. So you got to walk around and scan. It's pretty fun to, their idea was like halfway there. So then we had to kind of figure out the rest of it. And it's like a 28 part assembly. That job basically bought us a machine. So I was pretty happy to do it. And I was like, I don't really know what that sounds like, but I'm down.
So one assembly was 28 parts.
Yeah.
And then you had 30, you said?
Yeah, 30 total. And then a bunch of welding as well. We still do quite a bit of welding. Yeah.
Sounds pretty in depth.
Nice.
Yeah. And the only in-depth part is like that I designed it. If it was somebody, if it was designed by real engineers and well thought out, then it probably would have gone a little easier. But you got to make 3 or 4 prototypes fully assembled and then figure out everything that's wrong with it and then kind of go back to the drawing board.
How do you handle figuring out a price for that kind of stuff?
Man, that one I just kind of shot from the hip, to be honest.
Yeah.
Some of those are just really hard. That's why I really like and have really tried to move the business toward just straight machining, because
Yeah.
it's so much easier to standardize
Mm-hmm.
how you quote, how you do the work, how you inspect the work, how you ship it.
Yeah.
The worst
Much
thing
more-
about working for artists or somebody like that is like you can get to the very end and then somebody's opinion still
Right.
has value. Whereas like in machining, it's kind of binary. It's like I made the part or I didn't.
Yeah.
It can be pretty frustrating to get to the end of a project and have them go, I don't really like the way this feels. You're like, well,
Yeah.
too late because we made it.
You know, I've actually got a part here from, I don't know how well it'll show up. This is a zipper pull that I made for,
Oh, cool.
I think it was a duffel bag or a handbag or something. And everything on the bag was modeled after a like 1930s Bugatti.
Oh, wow.
So you can kind of see like the same shape. Like this is the back wheel and the front wheel here. And you
Yeah.
can kind of
Oh, yeah, I see it.
what I fidget with while I record.
That's tight.
Yeah, artsy stuff is tough, man, just because a lot of times those kinds of people don't really want to pay like machine shop rates.
Yeah.
And if you really and truly charge for, like if you do time and material, which a lot of people don't want to do anymore, if you honestly look at your time and you're like, hey, I've got 10 hours in this, that's going to be, let's just say $1,000. I mean, they lose their mind.
Yeah.
But that's reality. But it can turn into something good. You just have to either just be willing to kind of lose out here and there to hopefully make it up somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the hard part too is say you do time and material on a more artistic job where, like you're saying, they show up with a half-baked idea and you have to make it into reality. Like you could have 5 hours involved in that, like before you even turn a machine on, or you could have 15 hours involved in that because modeling isn't working the way you want it to, or I don't know, a whole host of things.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of tend to just come up with a price where I'm like, I would be okay, even if I spend more time than I anticipate, like for what I'm producing here, I would be happy getting this much money for making that and hope for the best from there.
Yeah, pretty much. That's more or less how I quote that type of work. I just think of like, okay, if it goes completely off the rails, what's still going to make me like not, want to call it quits and go home.
Yeah.
And it's also that type of work where if you don't get that job, it's not the end of the world because there's probably much better work out there. So you just throw them a number. And I had it in my head when I got for that job, I was basically like, we need another machine. So I'm going to throw out a number that can hopefully make that happen. And then they came back and it did. I was like, wow, okay, I guess we're doing this. And that ended up, it was our biggest job that went on for 6 months, basically, on and off.
Damn, that's a long time.
Fun. Yeah.
Manthai Metal does a lot of that art stuff too.
Yeah.
Like that, the Red Bull shit he does. So you got to come up with all that shit yourself and then make it work. Oh,
Dude,
pretty crazy.
I feel like you would just run yourself ragged trying to make this stuff. Well, and also he's by himself, so like that's a whole other challenge.
Yeah. I think some of his, because he's got like shop mates that's a shared space. I think they kind of work together sometimes too. But I know the other primitive design that's with him and that they do a lot of that art stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave does some cool stuff for sure.
Yeah, that neural thing he did was pretty cool.
Yep.
I just saw him post that part today. Yeah.
He got blasted on Reddit for that. People were like, would have been faster if you had a lathe. If you just did it in a lathe, it's like, you don't have a fucking lathe. It ain't faster.
It's not faster to go buy one, set it up, and make it.
And I tell you what,
yeah,
I hate chuck monkeys. They're always crying about something.
They are.
Do you got a lathe, Ty?
I got a manual lathe. I have an old LeBlanc. I do want to add a turning center at some point. I hate no quoting parts. It just feels wrong.
Right. I have one in my other garage. I'll ship to you. Make an offer.
Well, you should talk.
I disconnected it when I brought on the UMC.
Oh, yeah. I think I heard you mention that.
Yeah.
There's a guy, I bought a used CMM this year, and it's like a guy who's kind of at the tail end of his business, and he's kind of slowly shutting down. It looks like it went well for him, and he's just time to retire. And he's got an Akuma in there that it's 25 years old. It looks like it's never been touched, and there's a bar feeder on it. And I was like, when you want to get rid of that thing, you let me know, because I think I'm ready to make a deal. And he seems willing, so we're going to try to talk about it in a few months.
Yeah.
He's got one job on it that's supposed to end 2 or 3 months from now. And I was like, let's talk. I don't know anything about running a lathe, though, outside of manual. I haven't ever ran a CNC lathe, but I'm sure I'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, it's not that complicated. I mean, there are lathe parts that can be complicated,
Sure.
but in general, running a lathe is not a complicated thing.
Yeah, it's just a
Super
2-axis.
boring.
Like
Yeah.
nothing too crazy.
Yeah, literally boring if you're doing
Boring.
ID work.
Boring.
I enjoy manual turning.
Yeah, me too. I still use my LeBlanc all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine not having a manual lathe in the shop.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I use it once every other month, I feel like. But whenever I do use it, it's usually getting me out of a bind somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the last time I had to use it, it was because I ordered hardware for some fixturing that I was designing and machining for another company for it's a company that's just doing production and they needed fixturing. And so thought I had ordered enough 3/8 16 by 1 inch low clearance socket head cap screws. And turns out I didn't, but I had some 1.5 inch ones on hand. And so I ended up having to turn all those down to the correct one. So
What would you do without it?
yeah, it's nice to have around. It really does save you sometimes.
How big is your company, Ty?
Well, counting my wife, she's work from home, but it's 4 of us. I'm full time, and then there's 2 part-time guys, and they're both kind of flex. One of them has been working with me for even before this business. I owned a motorcycle shop before this, and he worked there. The other one he came on pretty recently. He's just a good buddy, but not actually a machinist by trade. He's a filmmaker. He's a camera operator out here, but the industry has been kind of slow lately, and we just got really busy. And I've always thought like Dustin is the right type of guy for this, and I knew he needed some extra work. And I was like, hey man, if basically any day that you don't have a film gig and you want some work, come by the shop. And it's turned into quite a good thing. He's programming his own parts now, and
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
basically me doing most of the programming. I got Dustin, he does programming and setup, and then Morgan, he's like all fabrication because we still have a production welding job. And then we're pretty picky about the welding work we take. Like we're honestly trying to not do that anymore in the longer term. But Morgan handles all fabrication, and then just like general shop stuff, runs, and kind of whatever else we need.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Having
So
the
you-
flexible employee situation is really convenient.
I
Yeah.
How'd
bet.
you get into machining then? If you own a motorcycle shop and then
Yeah, let's see. Well, basically got into welding through motorcycles. That was about 12 or 13 years ago. And then 10 years ago, I used to work in the film industry. That's what I went to school for. Me and 2 buddies that were doing that, we were grips. So you're kind of like supporting the camera department. Pretty mechanical guys in general. We decided to start a motorcycle shop. There was a little bit of a trend happening, I think, at this time where have you ever heard of these community garages where you could basically go like use the shop's tools to work on your own stuff?
Yep.
Mhm.
We heard of one actually in Atlanta. It's called Brother Moto. And I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, that's awesome. Like I need to look up whichever one is in LA so I go work on my bike. And I realized there wasn't one here. And then we all were kind of like, LA could really use something like that. So 3 of us quit our film jobs and did that. As it turns out, that's a great community resource, not necessarily the best business. It was a little tough to like make ends meet doing that. And so kind of slowly, I just started earning side money out of the back, just doing fabrication. And it was mostly like motorcycles at first. And then that kind of made me realize like, oh, I think I like metal work more than the motorcycles themselves. I still love motorcycles, and then started doing all sorts of like architectural fabrication and stuff. And, pretty quickly you're like, oh, the things I'm welding together need to be a little better. So then we got a Bridgeport, and then I kind of went down like the YouTube rabbit hole, man. Like pretty much owe all this to the internet. It's like honestly crazy where the algorithm can lead you. But it's like this old Tony and A-Bomb, Robin Renze, all the classics.
Yep.
And I'm a pretty obsessive type of guy. So like as soon as I started watching those videos, I was like, oh my God, we got to get some of this. And it was pretty easy to justify because we have a motorcycle shop. I'm like, oh, we need a Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And then, just got super hooked on it. And, but I haven't really been making my living doing just machining only the last 4 years or so. It was mostly welding up until then. And then like 4 years ago, bought my first CNC. and then kind of off from there.
What was your first CNC?
I got a 2000 Haas VFO, Facebook Marketplace deal.
Yeah.
And the only reason I didn't know what I was looking at really, I had already learned Fusion as a means of just designing stuff. And I was doing 3D printing so I could like sand cast motorcycle parts. And basically, I don't know, one night on YouTube kind of realized like, oh, I'm halfway there. I think I stumbled on a NYC CNC video and he was programming something. And I was like, oh, there's like a whole tab in this software I've never even messed with. And once I just started watching that, I was like, man, this is like, you get the bug. And I just kind of started looking. And really that guy who sold me the VFO, the only real reason I bought that one was it was very cheap. It was like $7,000. And he was just willing to give me the time of day. Like I hung out in his shop for like an hour or 2 hours the first time. He let me kind of him and haw and think about it. Then I came back to bug him a little more, ended up hanging out like the whole day. And he taught me how to like program a basic part. And I was like, okay, well now I got to buy this thing. He's been so nice to me. And moved that into the motorcycle shop. Wasn't the greatest idea. We didn't really have room for it, but I was just like to my partner, sorry, buddy, we got a CNC mill in here now. And then that kind of led to me getting my own building and moving out of there. But yeah, it was a great machine. I just got rid of it like a month or two ago.
That was interesting to the people that just have something that they're already doing and then they feel they need to get into the machining side of it and then you do so well at it. I mean, because
honestly, as soon as I started doing it, I was like, oh shit, I found my thing. This is like, it jives really well. Like, I being like a computer nerd growing up and then like know the fundamentals of manual machining. I was like, you can get so much more done in like a work day, with some servo motors attached to the milling machine.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I love it when we get guys like you on here, Ty, because it just shows that machining really is a trade that if you apply yourself, you can go however far you want. Because you didn't go to school, you didn't go through an apprenticeship, you didn't learn from a 20-year, 30-year, 50-year machining veteran. You just bought a machine and went at it. And look at you now, you're running a shop. You got employees, for crying out loud.
We're going to start a counter for how many people didn't go to school for this and they own a shop, Pat.
Yeah. I mean, I've made that joke before. I mean, Christ, you two, Cam and Brad, I mean, neither of you went to school for it. And Cam's running a shop. Brad owns a shop. I went to school and I'm stuck working for a guy.
Now we talked about that with Ian. So now we got Ty, we got Ian, me, Cam, Pat, school.
I did Brett or Sean Brown.
Yeah.
Did he go to school?
I don't think so.
I don't think he did.
Man,
I went to film school. I didn't know anything about. I didn't know what any of this was when I was at that age, honestly. And it's funny because where I grew up in Texas, it's like big oil industry there. There's probably very different machining jobs, but there's a lot of machining work there, tons of it. Yeah. And I always think like, man, if I would have got into it, I wonder what I'd be doing back home. Yeah, probably running a big, VTL or something, doing
what I think is
heavy industry stuff.
What I think is interesting is how many people I know now that were in the film industry that are now machinists.
Yeah, it's a weird overlap.
Yeah. You're like the fourth one that I've come across.
Yeah.
Maybe the fifth. I don't know. But
and actually, I should say part of the reason that buying that VFO was not super scary was that I have a friend in the film industry who had his own product line that he was getting made basically through Xometry or through like a local shop. And he pretty much told me, if you buy a machine, I will let you make all these parts right off the bat. And it wasn't like, it's not like enough to run a business off of necessarily, but it was enough to make it like not super scary. Like, all right, well, I'll buy this and then at least I'll have something to do with it right off the bat. He's still one of my best customers. We make tons of parts for him all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you get into actually, so, you go from motorcycle shop to fabrication shop to now you have a CNC machine. When did you get into actually having like machining customers who you're making parts to a print for them?
Would have been like probably 6 months after the VFO. The first couple jobs on it were definitely not like that. It was more like the first job I got was actually, it pretty much paid for the machine. It was doorknobs for some wealthy guy's house out here. We cast them all. And then literally the first job I put on it, I had to learn how to do rotary broaching. I'd known about it from, the manual world, but then I had to learn how to like index it because the doorknob was like a football shape.
Yeah.
So the square hole had to be indexed to the, and that took me like 2 days just to figure out how to make that first square hole. But then after I did, I was like, damn, that was awesome. I made 75 doorknobs, and that just blew my mind. You know, it's like I was literally earning money on the Bridgeport to pay my bills up until that point. So it was like a serious light bulb went off, and I was like, dude, you gotta really focus on this, because
and I can just press a button and it does it all for me.
Kind of. I mean, it's like, you know, it's not that, obviously. The deeper you get into it, it's
like going from manual machining where you're standing there literally doing everything. You might have auto feed, you know, but
exactly.
All right, I'll load this part and then do something else while this is running.
The first time I got to do that, I didn't even know what to do with myself. I was just like, I stood there and watched the first 3, like with my eyes just like glued to the glass. And then I realized, like, I have free time now. It's like, what am I going to do? So that's a pretty big light bulb moment. You're like, oh, this is such a compounding thing.
Explain to me, Ty, how did you index that rotary broach? Because that's something I've always thought about, but I've never been able to pull off. How'd you do that?
I called Slater Tools, the guys who sold me the broach, and asked them how to do it. And they showed me, I think they sell something for it, but I just kind of realized that's just a McMaster part. I bought a split collar and just drilled and tapped one side of it. So you can I just put a piece of all thread sticking out of one side, and then actually had to do some manual, some hand coding for this with the help of internet searching, but basically had it come down, spin the spindle at like 50 RPM. And then I would just use a, what do you call them? Just like a 1/2-13 setup, you know, piece of all thread just stuck up. And then when it swings around slow, it'll stop it from rotating. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I'm probably explaining this pretty poorly. I indexed the actual cutter by just clamping it in the vise in a pair of soft jaws. So I knew that got it square. And then I put the collar on it and then have that off to the side. So basically it comes down, does one rotation at a really low RPM. So that piece doesn't like, you know, swing around and fly out of your machine. And then that stops it. And then from there, it'll just travel down with the little, I got a video of it somewhere. I'll tag you guys in it after this.
Yeah, just send it to us. We'll put it up on here too.
Honestly, not nearly as hard as I would have thought. They kind of explained it to me, and I was like, I guess that's kind of what you would think. But then he was trying to explain to me the G code over the phone. That was when G code was mostly gibberish to me, and I was just like, what? Okay. But I figured it out.
Okay. Neat. Yeah. I think I get the gist of it, because I've had parts like that come up before in my career that I'm like, how? Because the rotary broach is usually free spinning. There's not really a way to control where it actually enters the part. So that's fascinating. And here again, didn't we talk about this with our last guest, Donnie, or maybe Ian? Like, you know, Ty has been machining for a few years. I've been doing it for 12, and I just learned something from him.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great.
I like to, whenever you have people who just jump into stuff like this, because like my first thought would not be to get a rotary broach for that. I would get a corner broach, I would machine it out, and then try to broach out each corner.
Right.
I knew about rotary broaching from some YouTube video. So I knew like the concept of it. I was like, I think you can do that in a CNC mill. Like, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I know rotary broaching's a thing, but because it needs to be indexed a certain way, immediately I'm like, no, rotary broaches spin. It's not an option.
That's definitely to say it probably wasn't indexed super accurately. I put some aluminum jaws in my Kurt vise and clamped the square broach in the jaws in order to get my indexing. I didn't like indicate it in. Pretty hard to do that, but definitely good enough for doorknobs. Yeah, exactly.
The guy hasn't called and said he's locked in the bathroom yet or anything. Can't open the door.
That doorknob job actually kind of haunted me for a little while, because after we made all the knobs, he called me back and he was like, yeah, but I really want to mount them without the little backing plates. Can you figure out how to do that? And probably overconfidently, I was like, oh yeah, for sure. I'll come up with something. I should have just said no then and taken the initial job, because I was back and forth to that guy's house a few times and I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah.
Yep. Turns into a big thing.
Indeed. Yeah, they always do. That's why I really hated doing like the architectural fabrication. Like we built lots of handrails and furniture and stuff like that. I love building it, but it's leaving the shop and loading all your shit into a van. It's like all of a sudden, all of the experience you have and all the knowledge and ease of doing things in your shop is just gone, and you're just working on your hands and knees. I kind of knew that wasn't for me and had to get out of it. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing worse than going somewhere and you forgot something you need.
Oh, and every time. It's like,
Yeah.
every time.
Also, like when you're used to working in a shop and then you have to go do a job like that somewhere, like obviously like at someone else's house or whatever, you just don't have all your stuff where you normally have it. You can only bring like half the stuff you actually want to bring because like your giant, I don't know, bench vise or something, obviously you can't just throw in the truck. I don't know, then you just have to improvise the entire time, and
Yeah.
it's just a pain in the ass.
Oh, for sure. I got a lot of respect for those guys who do that day in and day out. I couldn't do it. We did some handrails in these houses in like the Pacific Palisades here. We're welding bronze handrails for like weeks, and you're just on some stairs, with your mask on and super hot, and it's just not fun.
No, doesn't sound like it.
No.
Yeah, no, machining's, I don't know, a little cooler in my opinion.
I think it's the coolest career out there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You mean to say machining is cool?
I would say machining.
It is pretty cool.
Huh.
But that's
awesome.
also not to say that I had, amongst this whole timeline, I guess, I've mostly worked for myself over the years, but I've had a couple really significant jobs that I learned a lot from. One of which was during COVID, I took a job at a fab shop. That's a manufacturer that does like windows and doors. Pretty good sized shop here. And actually, he's turned out to be a friend and a customer now. We machine a lot of the weldments for his parts, and they bought the VFO after I was selling it. So now they've got a CNC mill in their shop. But I learned a lot from him about just like the basics of running a real business, like kind of watching how he ran his shop was super impressive, and just kind of having a window into like, the scale of something like that. And then couple months after moving into the building I'm in now, I had this customer that was like pretty quickly becoming one of my like better customers. I was getting like good engineering prints and good parts from him. It's this automation company in town called Gimbal Automation. He makes like CNC automation. You've probably seen Michael online.
Yeah.
Worked for him for like 7 months, and that was awesome. That was like, I went from newbie to like, I got my hands on 5-axis there. And there was another machinist there named Lance who like he'd been doing it for his whole life. Learned a ton from that guy. I mean, like, and I'll still like, he's the dude I will call if I find myself in a real pickle here. Like if I said yes to some work I probably shouldn't have, you always need somebody to call when you're in a bind like that. He's kind of grouchy, like kind of maybe the stereotypical, salty machinist, but man, that dude knows his stuff. He's probably listening to this. So what's up, Lance?
So you, that was one of our questions from Two Stroke Mafia. Did you learn 5-axis machine and run your own business? But you learned it at that place.
Learned it at Gimbal, yeah. And most of his parts were like the greatest ones to learn on because it's like all just positional work. And I had a 4th-axis on the VFO, so I kind of had the, tool orientation type programming. At least had my head around that. But yeah, got a lot of experience on the same exact machine, UMC500 over at Gimbal. And
oh, nice.
Yeah. So they wasn't super scary to buy it, having run one so much. I basically just emulated the setup I had over there, just standing between a VF and a UMC. And when I left there, for a little while, I made some parts for them, and he was just a great guy to work for because I told him like, when he hired me initially, it wasn't really meant to be a long-term thing. He just kind of said like, I need a guy right now. We worked out like a part-time thing, which basically meant I was working 8 days a week between his shop and my shop. Cause I didn't close my shop. I didn't tell any of my customers that I just said, screw it. I'm going to do this. And really glad I did. Cause it was like, gave me a little more stability than I had in a long time. Just having a regular paycheck. And then just the learning of being around, another business and learning from other machinists and really just seeing stuff that I never would have seen otherwise. It was a great opportunity.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how much faster you can learn things whenever you get into an environment like that versus just figuring it out all on your own.
Yeah.
And then you also realize like how many things you were doing wrong or just inefficient.
For sure. Yeah. And he had some cool equipment there too. He's got a GR510, like big gantry mill. Did a lot of fun parts on that. And he got a lot of Haas machines, but pretty much the whole gamut of Haas over there. So it was pretty cool. Great opportunity to just get my hands on machines.
Yeah. Probably like drinking information through a fire hose when you first got there.
On day one, he just put me on the UMC and he was just like, make this part. And he just walked away. And I was like, you got it, boss.
Yeah.
I mean, just 5% rapids, but got through it. Never crashed one of his machines. I've crashed the VFO once, but.
Maybe crashed your UMC?
Bumped, I would say. I wouldn't say full on crash. It's had a couple bumps here and there.
Yeah.
Which is like the original reason why, just wanted to learn how to dial it in. I had them come out and do a kinematics check after the first time I bumped it. There's been 2 significant bumps in its history. The first one did actually knock it slightly out of alignment. It was just the B was up at past 90. And it was during a simultaneous move. One of my risers just hit the side of the spindle housing. Put a good little gouge into the riser. But finished the job. It still made the parts accurately. And then just after we had a little time to slow down, they made some adjustments and stuff had moved around.
Have you ever done the alignments yourself?
I have not.
They've been out for 4 days doing mine, and it's just like I see the procedures online, and I can follow them, but I'm like, God, that seems like so much work. Like they were removing rails, and they took the A support off the B axis. It's like, man, I feel like I could fuck that up fast. The one thing I'm really shocked about, when they installed the UMC, there were 2 techs out here, and then just most recently there were 2 techs. So I've had 4 different techs here, and not one of them has machining experience. It's like,
that's a little frightening.
Yeah. I think 3 of them were mechanics before, and they said their job description fit the description for like a LinkedIn hiring type thing. Which, I mean, I guess like you don't really need to have machine experience to fix. I mean, you're following procedures, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I feel like you should know what the machine does. Like the guy here today, I was like, I'm gonna run the test cut. While here, I'm gonna start it, and he's like, "Oh, this is cool. I've never watched one run." I'm like, what the fuck?
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. What? Wow.
It doesn't exactly instill confidence,
right? But he was probably the smartest one out of the 4 that came out. Like he knew a lot about the machine.
Techs are so hit or miss, man.
I know they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had some really, really talented guys come out from the HFO here, and then 1 or 2 that you're just kind of like, man, you guys really sent the B team today. But for the most part, I always learn something from them.
So I'm curious, Ty. So you started with a VFO, which they don't even make that anymore. I mean, that's a fairly old machine. How did you go from that to now you have a UMC500, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's that
now I've got
progression?
Yeah, I think it was working at Gimbal and having learned how to run his. Just kind of looking at, we had this big job coming up. That was kind of the main reason I was leaving Gimbal. Is I knew that job was on the horizon. B, I knew I'd probably get some parts from him that couldn't be run on another machine, or at least not easily. I already had all the programs basically. And honestly, it's just, for a 5-axis machine, they're kind of in their own category price wise. Like there's not really much that competes with that price. And I was kind of going between that and a VF4. I was like, it's just not that much more expensive. And I just knew what a value it would add to have 5-axis here. I'm glad I made that choice, because once it's a little bit demystified and wasn't as, scary of a, decision to like, how am I going to run this thing once it lands here? It was a good choice, because it brought in some work that definitely would not have been able to say yes to otherwise. And now, like, my biggest customers are all 5-axis parts. I mean, there are parts that maybe you could do on a 3-axis machine, but you would not want to, and you would be competing with guys who are definitely not.
Yeah.
So it's like, on the one hand, the UMC is like, I think it gets a little too much flack maybe for being the cheap 5-axis. I understand that on some level. Like you can find the accuracy limitations of that machine if you go looking for them, for sure. But if you're smart about the way you do your work coordinate systems, like if I have to hit a really tight position, I will almost always make multiple work coordinate systems. If I have like a 4th thou positional tolerance to hit, I've hit it before just on DWO, but you have to have that thing dialed. And it's almost like, why bother? Because you should just take advantage of the probing. And just the amount of time it can save you. It just makes quoting stuff a lot less scary because you can pretty much look at all these parts and think like, wow, that's like 2 5-axis hops. Like a lot of my parts that I get are kind of like that, where you're doing like, you're hitting 5 sides and then flip and hit that back side and maybe 1 or 2 other odd features from a fixture or something. There's definitely when there was those 2 machines in the shop, it was a pretty funny juxtaposition of like the 25-year-old busted VFO and then a new UMC. It was good.
See, I realize I just passed up a really good joke opportunity, but I might have just thought of the title for this episode. You went from 0 to 500.
There you go. That was a good one.
What other machines do you have though besides them 2? Or
so now I sold the VFO. I've got the UMC500. I've got a VF4 SS, and then a Speedio S1000 X1.
That was another one of our questions we can ask from Lone Wolf. Speedio versus Haas. What are the pros and cons of each? Pros and cons of the UMC500 platform. Well, that's 2 questions, but
okay. Well, just brother versus Haas. Having learned on Haas, I think they've really done just a fantastic job on making those machines easy to use. It felt a little weird, honestly, like having to just edit the macros themselves. Like, I mean, you're editing the sub calls, but having to, edit the actual text of it as opposed to just entering like, what work coordinate system you want to into a chart felt a little odd at first. But yeah, it's hard to say, I guess. On the one hand, like the speed of it, obviously, the Speedio, it's right in the name. That thing is lightning fast. I mean, it is like psychotic how fast it is with the tool break detection and everything. Learning curve wise, though, I'd say Haas was definitely easier to learn. I don't know if I had started on the Speedio, if I would have been making parts quite as quickly. There was like maybe a week or 2, and definitely like, thank you to all the speedy bros on Instagram who helped me out with like all my stupid questions, because I basically leaned on everyone. Like, yeah, the community around those machines is pretty cool. But I think it's kind of one of those things where like, if they didn't exist, it would have been a little challenging to answer some basic questions. Dylan from Within Tolerance, as soon as I got it, he said, you need to change these 2 settings. And I tried to do it, but then it turned out I needed a firmware update, and I kind of put that in the back of my mind, and I forgot to do it. And then the first real part I threw on it for work was a pretty big plate part. It's like a 13-inch by 38-inch plate with some flatness tolerances and a couple bosses on it. And it was roughing, just doing some adaptive roughing. And on a repositioning move, it just went right through one of the bosses on the part. And I was like, what the hell? And I watched the simulation. It wasn't programmed that way. And then he's like, oh yeah, that's the dog leg setting. It'll allow it to dog leg rapids. It's like right through my part. And that's the type of thing where without like a community of people around it, I'm not sure how I would have even gotten that answer. Maybe called Yamazen. They're not as fast to respond as like Haas and stuff on the phone, but both great machines. And it's cool to like get out of just the Haas world, because I think like you get comfortable in one control, one machine, like, and I think like longer term, like I'd like to explore more machine, brands. So it's definitely been cool to have it in the shop, and it's only been here for 6 weeks, so still pretty new to it. Yeah,
nice.
As a Facebook Marketplace find.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, I imagine there's probably a lot of that though in LA.
Yeah, there's so much machine tool equipment for sale all the time here.
Yeah. Not the case here.
And this machine was like in an aerospace facility where mostly they had like big bridge mills and big 5-axis like gantry mills. It was like the smallest machine they had, like tucked away in a little corner. It just made 1 or 2 parts its whole life. It was like very babied. So it was a good buy.
That's nice. Yeah, those machines are impressive. Every time I see someone like on Instagram or something running one, I'm like, man, I want one of those so bad.
They're crazy. Yeah.
And even like from the people that I know that have them that I've talked to, like they'll run the same feeds and speeds like in steel that I do in a Cat 40 machine, and it takes it. It doesn't sound quite as good, like it doesn't sound like it's loving it. However, it runs it just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we threw a big aluminum part at it first, and The only thing I don't like about it, and I think that's just the nature of the taper size and the speed of the spindle, but that thing is screaming, man. And my desk is like 6 inches or 12 inches away from it, literally. So like, it is hard to think with that thing roughing right next to you. It's got me thinking about rearranging the shop a little bit. But then every other job I've thrown on it since then has been steel or 304, and it's like really impressive actually. I'm comping stuff less than I think I would have to on the VFO. Yeah, it holds good tolerances.
So I'm curious, going from working on motorcycles to fabrication, and then finally to machining. Those previous two occupations, I don't really feel like they lend well to being organized.
Definitely not.
But then when you get into machining, if you start out like not as an organized person or company or whatever, then you get into machining. I feel like it's got to be really hard to actually like get things organized and keep them organized. So I'm curious what you're doing as far as like managing all your tooling and work holding.
Well, I will say the type of motorcycle shop that we ran really forced us to be decently organized, because so the way it was structured was you could pay a monthly membership and come use all of our tools. And so keeping track of those tools was pretty difficult. And it's not because people were like intentionally walking away with stuff, but I mean, all the 10 millimeter sockets and stuff would always go missing, but that's, just ended up in people's pockets. But definitely had the mind to think about organizational, like, how to arrange a shop. Definitely not until machining did I take it like super seriously. And obviously, you're spending so much on tooling, like not knowing where it is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Or really bad and you can't find it.
Yeah, exactly. So we do, so up until pretty recently, I would use 0 through 199 as my tool numbering system, and pretty much anything over 199 would just get like a 0 or a no number in Fusion. And then I save 190 to 199 as like the specific tools for that job. But I try to leave a lot of stuff built. Like I think we probably have 200 holders. I try to just buy, every time there's a good deal on like cheap ER16 holders for drills and taps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that is not a good way to spend your time if you're a 1 or 2 man shop, is breaking down drills that
That's why I love drill chucks and tap adapters.
Yeah, for sure. We got quite a few chucks. I'm big on the chucks. Like I like having drill chucks around.
Yeah, I like you.
Yeah, it's easy. Why not? Why wouldn't you do that? You're wasting time otherwise.
What I'm asking the entire internet. People get mad about it.
But yeah, my tool system with color code stuff, I've divided it all into kind of like what type of tool it is, and then the tool number gets a colored, those little cheap like dot stickers you can put on stuff. We have, and it kind of follows like the ISO material codes, like green for non-ferrous, blues for anything ferrous, and then after that we just kind of made up colors. But like anything red is hole making, anything yellow is threading, anything purple is specialty, so that's like dovetail cutters, key seat cutters, like anything oddball. And then pink is what we leave for like, this is a tool that gets broken down after the job. And then everything, I 3D print little bins to store all the tools in, and then 3D print the tool tags, and everything's color coded. So like when you look over at any of the machines, I've got a little rack of all the tool cards. At a glance, you can at least tell kind of like how the deck is weighted, so to speak. Like it's like, there's 3 or 4 thread mills in there for sure, or like that's mostly loaded up with 3 flutes, or that. Pretty easy to tell like from 20 feet away, like kind of what's in a machine. And try really hard to not break down stuff that I know is going to get used fairly often. Like all the drills and taps, pretty much just leave them built. And we do a lot of like helicoil insert threads, which that's almost a whole side thing, but yeah, helicoils.
You and Brad can talk about that.
Oh, dude, I do.
I don't have to install them. Luckily, my customer, they'll do the installs, which I hate installing them.
Yeah. But the scary part is them getting installed and then it being too small after installation.
Oh, yeah.
After all that work.
I've done there.
Yeah.
I've had it the opposite where they were too big. And then, so I used to do, when I first got in, I didn't even know there were thread gauges for STI threads.
Yeah.
So I would just tap it, send it, whatever. I had one reach out and they're like, they're too loose. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? I tapped them. How are they too loose? Like, how do I know? So then I started buying all the thread gauges. But then I found you can get a thicker wire for helicoils. So if it is oversized, you can install these ones and it'll bring it down. I think that saved my ass on like a expensive ass part too.
Yeah, I've had to use that trick once or twice.
Yeah.
Those are good tips. I didn't even think about having a thread gauge for STI holes.
Oh, I haven't.
I've got the whole set now. Yeah. Yeah. It's
we don't do them very often at all, but
my bigger customers, it's a lot of parts like that, like aluminum parts with helicoil installs.
Yeah.
Actually, Pat, I had a funny thing, and it led me to you on one of your posts on the internet from, I don't know when you made it, on Practical Machinist forum. But the other day, I scrapped a part that was not very fun to scrap. It was like a 12 by 12 by 9-inch billet. And I got every feature in tolerance except for I had a row of 1032 helicoils, and I was thread milling them because I didn't have the right tap. And that could almost be a whole topic there, but whether or not to keep thread mills built or taps built or whichever. But
yeah,
I was cutting it and sneaking up on it because it was like the last feature on the entire part. And I'm sneaking up on it like a thou at a time in my wear comp. And the no-go gauge fit before the go gauge. I had never actually encountered that before. And I found your post on there, and I was like, oh, the tip of it's worn down. So basically the PD got big enough to where the no-go side would fit, but on the go side of the gauge, like the crest of the major is too big. Yeah, that did my head in for a second. We don't have an optical comparator or anything to actually look at that thread mill. But I don't really run into problems like that super often because we're like mostly doing aluminum here. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, I just ran like a 50-part 304 job with that thread mill right before this.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. So it worn down a couple thou. And yeah, good lesson learned there. That's the type of thing where, like, without, being self-taught comes with lots of downsides too. Just learning stuff the hard way. Like that might have been something where I would have known if I'd, gone to school or.
I would probably make that same mistake.
Well, the worst thing is I did it twice. Yeah. I just loaded another billet and thought, man, I must have just passed it. So then I started sneaking up on like tenths. And when it happened again, I just went home. I was like, well,
that exact same thing. Not thread milling, but like that exact same like thought process and everything. You're like, that's an anomaly. There's no way it's going to happen again. Like everything's right. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. I must have just screwed something up and didn't catch it. Oh yeah. Let's just start over and run it again. Yeah.
I just thought, you know what? Maybe there was like a burr, so my go side wasn't going, and I just missed my shot. And well, fuck it. I guess I got to order another billet and start over. It happened the second time, and now I have some really cool trophies around the shop. These two stupid parts. But,
you grip a cool part, at least you get a nice shelf piece.
Yeah, exactly. This one is like, honestly, the first one I was like, man, it's kind of cool to have one. It was like one of the hardest parts we've ever done, and it sucks when you do something like that and then it goes away. And I'm not the best at taking pictures of everything, especially like the NDA stuff you can't post. But to have that happen twice, and then Dustin, who works for me, he's like not a very experienced machinist. He's been learning really the last couple months. He's the one who found your answer. He's like, I found something here on. And I was like, oh, that's Pat. Just describing awesome. Was it an ACME thread in that post?
Yes. So I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the show. First of all, I'm glad my post was able to help you. When I try to explain that to most people, it's like their head caves in, man, because it is. And I felt that way when it happened to me. And to me, the biggest thing is like the guy I used to work for. I mean, as of last year, he's been machining for 60 years, man. And it stumped him. It was just a crazy circumstance. But it was exactly that. It was 1 3/8 5 ACME thread internal, thread milling it with a single point tool made for 5 TPI ACME. And I want to say it was stated to be it could be used for internal or external thread milling. And yeah, exactly that. I think we had purchased, for whatever dumb reason, we had purchased a Chinese gauge to start with. Because they were cheap. And at first we were like, oh, it's got to be the gauge. It's some Chinese junk, Well, so the customer actually bought a nice gauge. I don't remember if it was from Vermont or who it was, and sent it to us. And it was the same thing. Like we checked it on a comparator and thread wires and everything. And I mean, the gauges were identical. So I don't even know what spurred me to look at the tool on a comparator, but finally, between drawing it up in SolidWorks of what it should be, and then looking at it on the comparator of what it actually was, and the only solution was I bought it. In your case, it was just from Toolware, but in our case, that was the only thing we ever used that thread mill for. So I bought a different brand of thread mill, and when it came in, I looked at the width of the flat. It was like 5 or 6 thousandths less wide, and did the trick. It was perfect.
Oh, interesting. So it was actually just the tool itself was not made to the right spec.
That's how I look at it.
Sure.
I can't remember.
Something wrong. He's not good at threading.
Hey, it wasn't 3/8/16. Get off my nuts. But no, that was
a tough thread to hit.
Yeah.
There's a whole ask. You probably know Possum Solutions. Ask him sometime what 3/8/16 means to me. Oh man.
Yeah. So I've had a similar thing happen. It was an external thread that I was doing on the lathe. I'm pretty sure I talked about scrapping those parts on here because I didn't have enough lead in before, like from the thread start. Like the threading cycle started too close to the front of the part. So the time needed for everything to sync up. Well, I don't know how I'm trying to say that. Basically, because it started too close, everything synced up after it was already cutting.
Oh, wow.
Part. And so I had my no-go gauge going before my go gauge would go. And then the go gauge would like go shortly after if I kept creeping it out.
Yeah.
But I want to say it was an external thread and it was like 3'8" or something like that. So you're talking about an 1/8 inch per thread.
Sure.
Leading, or like whatever. So I was starting like 0.2 in front of the part, or maybe it was like 0.15 or something like that. And yeah, it just wasn't enough for everything to get synced.
Interesting.
And I guess that mismatch or whatever of I'm assuming like if you were to follow the angle of the thread, it's like a 1/8 rotation, right? It had to have been a little bit shallow, would be my guess. And so as it got deeper and deeper, it got enough to where the like shorter helix before it actually gets to the proper helix was small enough to where the gauge would fit over that. The looser gauge, the no-go.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. It was weird.
Dude, yeah, it did my head in.
It hurts your brain trying to figure it out.
Seriously.
And I scrapped like 5 parts because I kept doing the same thing as you're talking about. And I'm like, what is going on? And I would creep up on it. I'm thinking maybe it's springing. No, it was an internal thread because it was on a boring bar. And that's why I kept thinking it was springing.
Oh, maybe it's just springing out, yeah.
Yeah. But no, that one really did me in. And that was the material for that was like 9-inch 1045, like 7 or 8 inches long. I had to order like 7 more pieces or something.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was like $600 something of material that I had to order again.
Yeah, this one, my material salesman, the second time around, he was like, "Oh, ouch, you got to make another one?" I was like, "Yeah, scrapped one." I was like, "You can get one here tomorrow, right?" He's like, "Yeah, for sure, I got you."
Yeah.
And then I called him back for the third time. He was just like, "The hell's going on over there, man?" He's like, "Are they ordering more?" I was like, "Nah, I'm just like underwater on this job is what's happening now."
I've had that happen a few times where I've scrapped something and I reach out like, "Hey, I need another piece." I'm at the point now where I'm not even going to admit that I fucked it up. I just say, they ordered another one. I need it fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
It's nice having I've built a great relationship with my salesman here. We use Industrial Metal Supply as like one of our main vendors, at least for aluminum. It's funny because like the first salesman I ever had over there, super nice guy, but he was more like, I guess, just a boomer, just like different, no pep in his step. My current guy, I can pretty much like send him an RFQ and within an hour have if I do it at 3:45 p.m., the material will be here at 6 a.m. the next day. They're crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dang.
They run the sawing department all night and have stuff waiting in the morning.
It's amazing how much a sales guy can make or break a company for an individual.
Oh,
That's why I send all my sales reps Christmas gifts every year.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I need to send
I really need to do that this year.
I need to send the purchaser from our main customer something for Christmas. That dude's been freaking awesome.
Yeah, actually, those are really the guys to thank.
Yeah. Right.
People placing the orders.
Yeah. Well, and he's I mean, for that company, like, we have parts in their system that we're vendors for. So regardless, we're getting the order, no matter who the purchaser is. But it's all of that in between stuff, like adjusting the delivery dates and like, hey, we screwed this up. It's going to take a little longer. Or like he's hitting us up like, hey, we got these parts. Like, we need them as fast as we can get them. Like, what can we do here? Do you want me to, like, just let me know what the expedite fee is? Whatever. He's just great to work with.
Yeah.
So it's I feel like it's kind of rare that you actually get that
For sure.
through a big company,
What industries are y'all's shops mostly serving?
Ours is our biggest customer. They do like electric motors for oil and gas, and I think like some Navy stuff and mining. So a lot of like very industrial stuff, I guess. So a lot of our parts are pretty like industrial in nature, just heavy steel parts that aren't really like cool looking. They're pretty
large.
I try to make them look cool and pretty, but
I see all the parts you post are always super cool.
Thanks. Yeah,
that's why he only posts once a month.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, the cool stuff you see is like I don't know, 5% of what we make.
Sure.
I swear. Or it's just aggressively machining so it looks cool because you're removing a lot of material fast, and that's always fun to watch.
For sure.
But the coolest parts we do are usually the parts that are typically cast that they can't get cast anymore. And then
got it.
Yeah, and a lot of times you have to like model the actual casting, like the finished part, or basically the casting with the finished features machined into it. So you have to model all that. But you're modeling it from like a casting pattern print from like the 1940s.
Wow.
And it's been photocopied like 7 times.
Is there parts that have been in production for that long?
Well, yeah. Now I'm assuming they're not. I don't know what the deal is. Like, it has to have been like something that was discontinued, but now the customer still uses that equipment and needs parts for it. And so now we're machining a casting from the 1940s from scratch.
That's cool.
Like, it has to be something like that. But yeah, there's been quite a handful of those, but I really enjoy those. I mean, they make you want to pull your hair out sometimes. I don't know if you've ever tried to model castings, because like
a few times
it'll be stuff where like you're not allowed to change anything.
Yeah.
It needs to be dead on what it's supposed to be. So the draft angles need to be there. So when you start adding like a 2-degree draft angle to everything, especially on like a oddly shaped part in the first place, like it gets pretty frustrating pretty quick.
Yeah, I bet.
Especially with machining too, because then you don't have anything
to hold on to.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you flip it.
Everything's at an angle. So
yeah. Interesting.
It's really cool stuff.
I got a customer I do stuff for like that too, and that's what I've kind of figured they do. I don't really know what they do. It's because it's always random shit. But they've had odd castings like that where they're trying to reassemble something, and a few times they said, yeah, we had to fly out to blah, 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 3D scan all this bullshit on these printing machines or these heavy equipment machines that they can't get these parts for, so then we have to try to make them. And they always started out with, we're going to need like 80 of these, but can you do 2? So then I quota based on that. I do the 2, and then I never hear back.
Classic.
Fucker.
Of course not.
Yeah. It's the best strategy ever.
I wish well, I guess it probably wouldn't happen. I'm just thinking about 3D scanning, because somebody's got the part somewhere. Yep. If I could talk them into like figuring out how to go there and 3D scan it, like that would make my life so much easier. I mean, I've spent hours and hours modeling some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. This company bought a 3D scanner the first year I started doing stuff for them. This is probably 3 years ago. I think they spent like $85,000 on the scanner, and it's good for like plus or minus 1 up to like 20 feet or some shit.
Oh, wow.
He sent me files that he's done off of it. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I've never had an experience with those scanners. Seems really cool.
Yeah, I know a guy in Chattanooga that has that, and it's really cool what they can do. It really is.
Is that like a part of their company? They just do 3D scanning? Or is that like a buddy has one?
So he's a one-man band. He's like a prototyping shop. I did a shop tour of his place, and the It's not been released yet, but yeah, like 3D scanning and prototyping is his entire thing. So he'll go somewhere. I think he'll go somewhere to scan a part, or you can bring it to him and he'll do it. If you ever need it, Cam, he's right there in Chattanooga. I can give you his contact.
It's an hour, like 20 minutes from our shop. So.
Yeah. Oh, Ty, you asked us what industries we serve. I mean, where I work now, we mainly do tube bending stuff. So we make die sets for tube benders. We fix tube bending machines that come in, that kind of thing. I used to work for just a general job shop. We did everything, medical, aerospace, whatever.
That's cool. You posted a picture of a part. Maybe you posted a few different ones, but it looked to be made out of bronze, and it's got like almost a snake looking assembly. Is that like a mandrel for something?
Yes, that is a tube bending mandrel. The last one I did was for a 3-inch by 3-inch square tubing with a 3/16 wall.
That's cool.
Yeah. The purpose of it is basically to go up inside the tube into the bending area, and it keeps the tube from just collapsing when it gets bent. Funny thing, the first video of one of those I put up is by far the most viewed Instagram video I have ever done.
Oh, really?
That video has 12 million views.
No shit. Damn.
I know.
That's crazy.
I wish Instagram paid for views like YouTube does, boy. I'd be out of here.
That's a cool looking part.
Yeah. I enjoy making them. I mean, Ampco bronze is not easy to work with, but if you're milling it, it's fine. If you're turning it, it's fine. It's when you got to drill it or tap it, it sucks. But
yeah, I've been wondering, like, what does it do? What are the characteristics of it? I've never machined it, but it seems like it gives some difficulties.
Oh, it does, Cam. It's a very strange combination. It's tough. So think of like stainless, I guess. It's also it's not really gummy. It usually makes pretty short chips, which is good. But it's also very springy. So like if you're drilling it, it wants to shrink down on your drill, or on your tap. It also makes spring passes really hard to do, even if you're milling, because it doesn't want a small cut. It wants a big cut at one time. Turning it, and it is fairly hard. I want to say Ampco bronze is in the 30s Rockwell C. So it's not hard, but it is, in my mind anyway. I think bronze, I think of brass alloys and stuff that are soft, easy to cut.
Ampco, man, however you want.
Exactly. Ampco is tough stuff. I mean, if we had better drills, I think carbide drills do better because they, one old school trick that I learned from my coworker is that trick of what they call dubbing a drill, where you just take a stone and put a tiny flat on the cutting lip. And that helps tremendously with it wanting to actually cut the material without wanting to. That's the crazy thing. When you're drilling, it wants to grab the drill and pull it in, even though it's a tough material. I don't know. It's so weird. It really is.
I remember a long time ago watching an A-bomb video, and he was making some parts out of Ampco bronze, and tapping them was just like a big challenge.
Mm-hmm. I had to do a 1-inch 8 in Ampco one time.
Oh shit!
And man, that was, especially. I mean, none of our taps are in good shape.
That sounds like a thread milling job.
Oh, yep. It should have been, and 300 people told me that in the comments.
Sure.
So, I have a couple questions for you, Ty.
Sure.
And they kind of pertain to some questions we got from the gram. So, I run a 5-axis Haas where I work, but it's a VF4 with a TR160 trunnion. How do you feel like your UMC is?
I think, like I said, I think the UMC kind of gets a bad rap. For the most part, it's been a fantastic machine. And granted, most of the more complex parts I do on it are aluminum. So not really fighting with like huge rigidity issues there. And like a lot of the parts we're doing are big aluminum hog outs with like long reach tooling and stuff.
Mhm.
Like I said, if you're trying to hit like a tight positional tolerance, I think where maybe a more expensive machine would be able to do that just off the dynamic work offsets. It really behooves you to create a few work coordinate systems and probe at with once you've got your B and C where they're going to be. And one thing, I think knowing when to and when not to bother with the clamp codes in your post, that makes a big difference. Like you can turn that on and off in the Fusion post, even the stock one. It'll just elect to clamp or not clamp the B and C axis. If you're trying to hit tight tolerances, obviously you want those things clamped, and creating multiple work coordinate systems is a really good way to go.
Nice.
I'm actually surprised that for the non-SS model, even for simultaneous toolpaths, if you get your toolpath clean, like not a ton of toolpath points, it'll very smooth motion as well. But in terms of like rigidity, I have not really had any significant issues with it. And granted, I think a lot of that boils down to work holding in a lot of people's cases. The first work holding I had on it was I was just bolting like the Haas 5-inch vise directly to the table. That was pretty rigid. And I had a Pearson pallet system, like the mini MPS. That was not the best. I just don't think, nothing to knock the Pearson system at all. It's just not designed for 5-axis work. It loses a lot of rigidity when you kick that at 90 degrees because you just got that one pin. I put like a 0-point system on there now with a riser and whatnot, and it's very rigid. I think I can see why, if you're ending up getting mostly 5-axis work, I can see why you would want to end up with a DMG or Hermle or something much more expensive, just because the time you have to take on maybe the UMC to hit super, super tight tolerances, you might not have to spend that time if you had a nicer machine that could just hit it right off the bat. But that being said, like you learn how to do it and you get comfortable in those processes. And one thing I would love to talk to somebody about, if they have any good knowledge on this, would be like, let's say for another one of my work coordinate systems, the B's at 90 and C's at 180. It'd be really, really cool if I could tell Fusion maybe you just have to make a different setup and have the machine model set there, because that's when your simulation starts to get a little funky. If you're not doing it all from the same setup, it's hard to like tell Fusion this is beginning with B at 90. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you want to simulate moves during that, it's generally you want it all to be from one work coordinate system. I honestly think you're just leaving so much work on the table by not having a 5-axis machine. You don't necessarily need the best one, but man, like the number of jobs that like have become big customers for me, that there is just no way I would have been comfortable saying yes to without that machine. It's pretty transformative. And like, hopefully if it goes on like this, maybe in a few years, we will be able to afford a nicer 5-axis. But at least right now, it's the workhorse machine in the shop.
And you could definitely justify a nicer 5-axis at that point too.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you've got the work for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if we had a nicer one, it'd be running every day today.
Yeah.
For sure. It's just, yeah. But for now, it makes amazing parts. I really don't have too much bad to say about it.
Yeah.
There's like small stuff like chip management. That's like, if you Google online, like pros and cons UMC, you always read about the poor chip management. We got around it with some like 3D printed things, and kind of like we got that like Swarf Unlimited tray for it, because running any sort of production on that machine, it'll flood your shop pretty quick if you just leave like the stock sheet metal on it. They've got a sheet metal piece that what ends up happening is, unless you're just running all chip splitters, if you have any chips that are longer than like a 1/2 inch, they pack into these 2 little crevices within like 20 minutes. And then if the coolant starts to rise, there must just be like a certain height above the chip conveyor where there's no more silicone or gasketing or anything, and it just starts flowing past the sheet metal. And I was like, a couple weeks into owning that machine, I had a really easy part that I had already done a bunch of times, and it's like a 2.5 hour long runtime, and I just hit go and went home and came back in the morning. Pretty much the whole sump was out on the ground, and I was like, nice. They still finished the part though. It didn't break anything, but I was just like, oh damn, that sucks.
It didn't run like completely out of, or like it didn't run dry and then
no. No,
Yeah.
it was honestly fine. But
I
yeah,
feel like that's one of the more common complaints that I hear from people with Haas machines is the chip management.
yeah, not great. Um,
I
Granted, I think it's
I've said
better
this.
than like the VF where like getting everything to the auger. It's like, man, if they just kick that sheet metal like another 2 degrees,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I want to make maybe like a DIY wash down system for my VF because
Yeah.
we don't do any production, but for us, production is like 20 parts, and
Right.
even then, it'd be pretty slick to not
Doesn't-
have to like get in there with the shovel and scoop it into the
Yeah.
auger.
Doesn't Swarf Unlimited have a wash down kit?
They do.
Yep. Super
I just-
expensive.
I love the
Yeah,
price.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, back to your question. The UMC, I don't have that many big complaints with it. I definitely have like better 5-axis aspirations at some point, but also like
Sure.
pretty happy to have one at all at this stage in my machining career. So it's been really, really good to us.
Before, mine was
great.
kind of an impulse buy. I got an email, place was selling it. They were trying to get it sold before they shipped it from Texas to California. So I started doing some research on it, reading forums and stuff. And then I started talking to people. Reading the forums, there's a lot of people that bitch about it. And if you do the research, these people don't even fucking own one. They're just bitching to bitch.
Yes.
And then I found people that actually own one, and I reached out and talked to them, and they're like, it's a great machine. I don't have any issues with it or nothing to really complain about. And then like I talked to you, I talked to Evolve, and generally the people that I know that own them, that are owners, they're happy with them. They just have no
Yeah,
issue.
that was my experience as well. It's online, man. There's like no shortage of people trashing them, and I
Right.
mean, I can also understand like if you, yeah, I don't know, if you're making a $5,000 payment on something, and then there's like a cheaper, if you're not doing super tight work, if you're doing like plus or minus 5, I don't know why you would spend too much more than that if if that's all you really need. And we have definitely run into parts where like I said, you got to know what you're doing in order to hit those tight tolerances. Mostly positional is what I mean. But like it has no problem cutting any feature to size, just like any other machine. But yeah, it's been a good machine for us.
That's
The
great.
majority of what I do is automation type work for packaging equipment. So it's parts that have features on all 6 sides or angles, tapers. And that was kind of the reason why I'm like, God, maybe I should try this and just be able to, because most of the time I'm in my VF and I'm flipping apart 6 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if I can do this in 2 ops, I'm going to save so much time. And a couple parts I ran in it, just like I ran a part that was 20 inches long. I was able to rotate and do 2 end holes. It was fucking great. Like I didn't have to worry about sticking it in my vertical and trying to clamp it up high so it's not chattering.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I think in some ways I always wonder if it's making me a worse machinist because it's kind of like the easy button, It's like you don't have to think of a super creative fixture, or you don't have to like think about lots of these problems. You're just, it's more, the main thing I think about when looking at a lot of these parts is just the order of operations. Like if you have a flatness call out or a parallelism or something, just thinking about like, what order do I want to rough and then finish? So it's not like a lot of the ones we'll do, like most of the materials going away. So you just got to think about like what to finish in what order.
Yeah.
Otherwise that's kind of the bulk of it, as opposed to like thinking about fixture design. And I do think that it has, I don't know, made me worse, but you don't have to be quite as creative, or just you're putting your creativity into a very different, lens on just how to program it.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing that I saw a post was it yesterday? Was it Justin from TDX? He said like no one talks about like second ops on 5-axis.
It's true. And I think I heard somebody basically talking about this on Dylan's podcast, but I don't think I have yet discovered the tabbing strategy that I would be happy with, like handing that part to the customer. I always put it and face off the other side.
Right. I hear people talk about that. It's like, does that actually exist? Like, how are you tabbing a part off and just sending it?
There's a dude that I follow on Instagram, runs like I think he's got a MAM, and he posted a really badass part that he like windowed out of like a pretty thick plate that had some pretty crazy features on it. And he posted like the before and after. And I asked him, I was like, did you do a second op on that to clean it up? And he was like, nah, I just got my tabs really, really thin and then sanded it, which is like, and the part looked fantastic. Personally though, I have not really figured out a strategy that would allow me to get a good enough finish on that underside to where it like, but if it takes me 20 minutes to do that, I think my 20 minutes is a lot better spent just putting in a second op and just facing it off so it looks perfect.
Yeah, especially
I worked at a shop probably about 10 years ago now, but they tabbed a lot of stuff, and how they would do it was they would utilize a chamfer to break off. So they would chamfer the backside, and then they would tab it with the end mill on the end. So when you broke it off, it would just be kind of right on that chamfered edge. And then they would just hit it with a buffing wheel really quick. And at first, like I saw them do it, and then I had to program one. I was just a programmer there, and they're like, "Oh, we got to tab this." I'm like, "I've never tabbed anything. I don't even know how to do it." And then he laid it out for me, and then I went and watched him after it was done running. I was like, "Damn, that actually worked pretty good."
Yeah, I need to focus in on that a little bit more. I know, like I've heard, and I've seen people who can pull it off no problem. I just my skill level is probably just not there, or at least haven't discovered the secret sauce. But yeah, pretty typically I will either have just like a cleanup op, or a lot of times I will just leave actual machining work to do for the second op, even if both operations are like multi-positional machining operations, you know.
Are you doing op 1 and op 2 in the UMC, or are you usually moving it over to the VF?
It depends on the part. Usually it goes into the VF for the second op if I can. But it just depends on, like, our workflow is so all over the place. So if the machine's available, then yeah. If not, then a lot of times it'll just go back into the UMC.
Do you guys do a lot of repeat work?
Sorry?
Do you do a lot of repeat work?
Not a lot. Some though. One of our biggest customers is like it's like space related, like electronics enclosures. We're starting to see parts that we did like a year ago repeat, which is awesome. Yeah. But I'd say 90% of it is not. We'll do like two of this part, and then I never see it again.
So do you bother a lot with doing setup sheets?
No. Because up until very recently, I was the one doing the setups, so I could just kind of open my cam and do it myself. We're doing it a little bit more now, mostly as a I just want to teach like good habits, the new employee.
Right.
But also it has kind of made me realize that I want to revamp the tool library like completely, because doing the 0 through 199 was really just limited because of the Haas control limitations. You can't go past 200 on the tool numbers. I heard somebody talking, I think it was Lathe Precision. He was talking about their tool numbering system, and we're actually we're almost doing that anyway, but we stopped at 199. They just do sequential all the way out. So basically he's saying like anytime we get a new tool, whatever the next number is in line, even if it's like 684, it gets committed to the Fusion library with a sequential number, and then it's stored sequentially, which for me, that wouldn't be a huge deal because I know where everything is in my shop, but like trying to explain where something is to somebody who doesn't even know what it is they're looking for. Yeah. If I just say it's 600 and then all he knows is, well, it's going to be between 599 and 601. I kind of love that system. And then just renumbering when it gets in the machine. Because right now I'll pretty much leave, 0 through 190 stored, and we'll retouch off and everything. But like, I'll actually just leave those tool assemblies built, and then try to be super rigid about like, if I have changed it in real life, I will go change it in the Fusion library. So the digital library is like perfectly reflecting what exists in real life. That's hard to stay on top of. But we try really hard.
Yeah, I do something pretty similar to what it sounds like Lichen Precision. Is it Lichen Precision? Mm-hmm. Okay, what they're doing. So I've got basically a spreadsheet on Google Sheets. That's my quote unquote tool library. That has, which corresponds with Fusion. So whatever's in there matches in Fusion. But I have basically what I call a library number assigned to each tool, and it's just sequential 1 through infinity. And every time we get a new tool, it is whatever that next number is in line. In my tool library spreadsheet, I do obviously what number it is, what kind of tool it is, all the details about the tool, like length of cut, corner radius, flute count, all that stuff. I have a link to the manufacturer's website. If I buy it online, a link to where I buy it online. I also have a drop down there for who I order it through. So if it's from a vendor that I email, it's there.
Okay.
And then if it's an indexable tool, I have my insert number and a link for my inserts there as well. And then I have all of that corresponding in Fusion. But in Fusion, the way that I do it is I have the library number that I'm talking about will look like just L129 or L whatever, and I put that in a comment. in my tool on Fusion. And then, whenever you're pulling up the tool library in Fusion, you can change the order of all the columns to see what information you want to see at first glance. So I have that library number as like the second column right next to the name.
Oh,
or the,
nice.
or the comment would be there. And then so I would see like L, when I'm doing my setup sheets, I can be like L, 1297, 162. And I also have my setup sheets in Google Sheets as well. And so that will automatically pull the information from my tool library. So whenever I'm actually building out my setup sheet, I'll say tool 11 is 129, tool 12 is 13, tool 13 is 176, whatever, and it auto populates all the information from my tool library right into my setup sheet.
And then you're touching them off as that correspond to the pocket numbers.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I have a physical tool library, if you want to call it that. I don't know. It's just it's kind of like a list of cabinet, and that's all ordered just like what's in the spreadsheet. And that's so awesome. When you need tool 976, you go to the drawer that has that and you grab it.
Yeah.
And then printing labels, it's from a spreadsheet, so you can print labels directly from there. So the actual labels that go in the toolbox for that section where that tool lives is there, and it's got all the information that's on the spreadsheet that you would need, reasonably need for that section in the toolbox. And then I also do tool tags. So whenever you build a tool, the tool tags live with the tools in the box. Yep. So whenever you grab the tool, you grab a tool, you grab your tag.
Yep.
You build it, put it in a holder, whatever, stick the tag on there, and then you've got it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty similar to what we keep the tags in the little tool trays and everything as well. And then we started implementing Kanban, which has actually been pretty cool around the shop. We just got super busy, honestly, and got like probably 70 or 80% of the way through a good implementation, and then it kind of has stalled, if I'm being honest.
That stuff is hard to it's like that last 20% is always so hard.
There's a reason that the last S in 5S is sustain. That's the hardest one.
Yeah, we only 3S here. I can't do the sustaining part. Yeah. But actually, especially with hiring and getting a new guy in here, he's like the type of person who's really into that type of stuff, right? And helps me stay on top of it, which is like super critical of an employee. I think like having them participating at the same level as you and keeping me accountable as well, right? Like we all do the same shit. Like we run the machines together, we sweep the floor together, we clean the bathroom. Like we're all basically operating at the same level and like, working in the system together. So it behooves all of us to participate at the same level. But he's been really great at keeping me on top of Kanban and everything. And for him, that's kind of the biggest reason we did Kanban is because like I built the shop, so I know where everything is, but he doesn't. Yeah. And like putting like the Omnis on, it's just so much easier when everything is documented for us to like not run out of basic shit. And we used Arta for it. It's been really good so far. I got little tool cards everywhere. I need to order these tonight. But yeah, it's been very worth it.
How simple is it to like create a new Kanban for something?
The first couple took me a little bit to kind of get the hang of it, but it's pretty quick. I mean, if I get a new tool, I can create a card and a page for it in probably less than a minute.
Okay.
And mostly because like once you have all your vendors set up in there, I'll just like, let's say it's another one coming from, All Industrial or something. I'll just copy an existing one and then just change a couple fields and hit print.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something I've been curious about. We could really benefit from Kanban.
Yeah.
And
we did it initially with the goal mostly being the tool library. And I think it's actually shown the most value outside of that, just in like all the general shit you need on a daily basis to keep the shop flowing.
Yep.
We have saved money for sure. Cause we're buying like real minimums worth of stuff. And I'll be honest, like it's actually a little hard for me to see how I would save the amount of money that I pay for the subscription for it. But like literally 3 weeks in, I was like, oh, there's a good example. Like I could find like real life examples of how it saved money. And for me, like the mental load of just, I do the ordering at the end of every day and it's mindless now. I just grab the cards and scan them. And like, if the card exists, that is pretty much my consent to order it. Like if I have already made a card for it, I have already consented to, if this card is in the red box, we can order it. It's not like, should we, can we?
Right.
And it's saved us quite a few times.
You're building a system as well to where that is maybe once you have full-time employees or something, you don't even need to do the ordering.
Exactly. Yeah.
You've already got everything proofed out. It's already figured out.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys just handle it.
Cam, you said you use Monday.com to run the
Yeah.
shop. We do as
Well,
well.
I'm using Fulcrum, which is like a dedicated ERP system.
Okay.
But yeah, I was using Monday for quite a while.
We're
And
about to stop after like 3 years.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it was great going from nothing to having something, you know. Of course, it's all from your own brain. Like you have to figure out how to make it work for your shop, and it's like it was like 50% there for everything we needed, you know, and it just wasn't. It's not built for what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
so it just wasn't the right tool for the job, but it was definitely an improvement over, you know, just paper prints and POs.
Oh yeah.
And no tracking of material ordering. Well, we still didn't really have that in Monday either, but you know, you could say material was ordered or something.
Yeah.
But keeping general statuses updated on things and having some sort of way to track things was really, really nice.
Yeah, for sure. I think when my old boss at the fab shop, he's the one who turned me on to Monday. I was doing basically nothing. I just kind of had like a Google Doc with like, honestly, most of it was just stored in my head. And I can pretty much look on a calendar and when I implemented Monday, and within like 3 months of that, the monthly revenue doubled consistently. And it's not because we were getting like new sales. It's just because I could close the jobs much more effectively and just move on to new work. Because most of our, like, we're not getting like new customers that often, but I think most of the customers that we do have, like they would give us more work if we had more capacity. So just really nailing down the process of like getting through a job super quick and not having too much work in progress has been pretty huge. But we're going to switch over to InFab next.
Okay.
We did the trial and I was pretty blown away by the trial. Like we have to do all the material compliance tracking, and like we have this whole stupid little system we came up with to print material stickers and part stickers here. And the amount of time I spend doing that is like awful. And they have that all automated into it. And I was like, yeah, right there. So good enough.
I haven't seen what InFab looks like yet, but I'm assuming, knowing who's making it, there's machinists who are building this thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be built in a way that makes sense for a job shop or a machine shop in general.
For sure. Yeah, we did the trial like 6 months ago, and I was like, well, I definitely want this. Can't really make the plunge right now, but it's just been in the back of my mind. Like, as soon as it makes sense or we can find the time to actually switch over, we're going to, I think come January, we're going to try to hit a little revamp of the tool library and then get out of Monday and move over to InFab for all the job management stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Like the nice thing is going from, you know, something like Monday, you at least already have a system and you're already tracking things. So it's not like you're starting completely from scratch.
Yeah.
And how do you do accounting? Do you use QuickBooks?
QuickBooks. Yeah.
So I'm assuming you should be able to import all of your parts from QuickBooks into InFab.
Yeah. Actually, I think there's like an integration they have.
Yeah. So same thing with Fulcrum. Like I do all my invoicing and everything from Fulcrum, but I also imported all of the actual items that we make or have made over the years with the price that we sold them for and everything.
Oh, cool.
So now whenever you have a new sales order from a customer with a repeat part, you know, the part number is already in the system. The price is already in the system. So you just say the quantity and approve the job, and then you're ready to roll.
That's great.
Yeah.
One thing I always forget to ask shop owners, Ty, is have you ever had any issues with late payments and things like that?
Honestly, not that many. I mean, certainly I can think of a few over the years, but for the most part, no. One thing that has been a little bit challenging is like, as we get into more real customers that are like companies, they all want to do terms. And I've been pretty hardcore about trying to just not do that. I usually want 50% up front and 50% when I finish. I like that structure because having that carrot in front of me it's great to know like, okay, when I close this job, we get the real profit, because the first half you just spend on setting the job up. As we have started to get some bigger, better customers, bigger, maybe the keyword, better, the process is simpler. You're ordering from a purchaser, is, you know, you're not dealing with like the guy. But yeah, the terms suck. I just got a new customer, they're net 45. And it's like, I know that's not even that long for some people who are doing like government work and net 90 and all that stuff. But for me, I hate that. I try really hard to keep them on my terms, but you get to a point and they don't need you as bad as you need them. So you can just say, well, screw it. Yeah. But no, I haven't not had that many issues with late payments.
Good.
In general, it's been pretty okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I would assume having that rule of 50% up front kind of, I don't know. I would think that would kind of prevent people from having an issue with paying on the back end as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because they've got some skin in the game from day one, just same as you, which I love that structure. And for the most part, I think it's like, it's also good for them because it really puts it on me to finish the job quick. Like, it's I think actually my least favorite way to get paid is just upfront. I hate that. Because then it's
I've had some jobs where I'm paid up front and it's like, I don't even want to start. I'm already paid. Why do I even gotta make this right now?
We have one right now for the train, like the Metro LA, like the public transit system here. I quoted them some part. They took like 6 weeks to even respond to the RFQ or the quote, and they hit me back with a PO, issued him an invoice, and they just paid it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then after that, he tells me, okay, so it's 100 parts, but we're going to flow this to you 10 at a time over the next couple months. And I was just like, what? I'm in month 4 right now. And I'm like, dude, we got paid for this 4 months ago. And now it just feels like we just owe them something, which we do.
Yeah.
It's just, but there's nothing at the end of it. It's just like,
did you run all the parts at once at least, or do you just run them?
No, it's like the worst case scenario. They're castings that need something done to them. They're like removing them from service in batches, bringing them over. We're making a modification, and they're putting them back in service, like as they can do it. But they're a good customer. Like it's the city, so it's kind of nice to have those types of customers. It's worth it for the pain.
Man, if I had something like that consistently, I'd probably have to get like a checking account I can't see, and then once I deliver, just like take that payment.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't really have like too many hobbies outside of this. Like this is like also the thing I just like lay awake at night thinking about. So like I'll just buy its machining toy, and then next thing you know, you're like, oh, I gotta buy material for that job. Too bad I already spent all the money. Yeah.
Man. Okay. That's good to know. I mean, some people have bad luck with customers. Where I came to work at did for the longest time. So, but I'm glad that you haven't had much problem with it.
Yeah, knock on wood. So far so good. I've had some pretty good customers for the most part.
Well, I feel like that's a pretty good spot to start wrapping up.
Thank you guys for having me on here. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, of
I
course,
felt like that's like a career milestone. Got on a podcast.
You went from riding motorcycles to now you're on a machining podcast. So
yeah, that'll show them.
Yeah.
Do you have did you think on an impractical tip for this episode?
I did. And I have 2 categories. One involves just something you can do, and one involves spending money at any level you want. The one would be that is not money related or anything. I would just say communicate with your customers. I think that's like really obvious, but especially whenever I was on jobs where maybe a little bit above my head, there's been times when I've been way too scared to just reach out and ask a simple question. And then when you finally do, you realize like it's just much easier to communicate your concerns about a job or about a part or whatever. Oftentimes they'll be like, oh, that didn't even need to be that way. Cut it with a different end mill. You're sweating over some tiny radius or something that to them might not even be that important. I cannot tell you how many times just basic communication has really saved the day. And also like a lot of our customers, I think the bar is low for a lot of machine shops out there. I hear pretty often like, oh, we love you guys because you respond to your emails and you just deliver parts on time. I'm like, those are like the basic expectations. Right. I feel like,
right.
The other one would just be whether or not you get a Lang kit or a Chinese one or something, 0 point, man. That's like probably been the single biggest return on investment so far in the shop has been 0 point, and just work holding in general, like making it easy to set up a job. Man, like, and I've used I forget the name of it, CNC Lucy or something like it's the Lang knockoff, the Chinese ones. Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think for a lot of people's needs, that is, you still gain most of the benefit of it. It's hard to imagine like not having that now that we have it. I want to put it on the VF4 at some point too, but those tables are big to cover. But
Right.
man, like on the UMC, it makes a lot of sense. Any 5-axis, because you don't got to cover a ton of table space. But we just did it on the Brother too, and that was like a pretty painful purchase at the beginning. But God, it is amazing.
I bet every time you use it, you're like, I don't really miss that money that much.
Now you forget instantly because you're just like all of a sudden you're just sharing work holding between all the machines, and I'm like never busting out an indicator as much as I used to.
Yep.
And like I can set up a job so fast. And then kind of to that same nature, also free just your time, is programming templates in Fusion. Like I'm big on like the click templates, like for like just right click, create whatever thread. I've got those for basically every thread out there. And then I had a really good 5-axis, or I thought it was really good. I had a decent 5-axis template that I had made where you just kind of drop a part in like container style. But I had Ethan, shout out, from Centric Iterations, build me like a pimp daddy version of that. And also like money you forgot you spent within like seconds, because programming a part for the UMC, it's like the easiest machine to make a program for now, because I don't probe. I don't think about, I mean, it does a lot to probing, you know, it's all just built into the template. But yeah, I think like if I really look at like money I've spent at my shop that has actually paid off in like a really obvious, tangible way, 0 Point, and I feel like templates are the equivalent of 0 Point in your CAM system. And it's just like, especially on the template side, for just an investment of time. I mean, you guys probably already know all this, but did anybody listen? If you're like putting off going that extra mile in your CAM library or in your, man, don't wait an extra second, because those seconds compound very fast, and you get them all back if you do that.
No, I mean, you're talking to me too. That's something I've been saying I need to do for who knows how long.
Especially for I think the biggest time savings are just threaded holes. And now if I encounter a hole where I don't have a really obvious template made, I will actually spend, even if it takes like 15 minutes, like when's the last time I had that thread? And I'll go find that part and copy those and make a template. Because even if it takes you a little time right then, that's like the last time you ever got to think about it. And before you know it, you ran out of threads. I mean, there's only so many common threads out there. I don't use them a lot for like roughing or anything like that, but you know, the little click templates for drilling and tapping holes is pretty great.
I mainly use it for NPT thread milling.
Oh yeah, same.
That's really the main thread milling that I do is NPTs.
Okay.
I've got it down pretty nice now, and I also keep dedicated thread mills in shrink fit holders on the rack ready to go. So every NPT that you could possibly do, I've already got it in a holder. You just grab it off the shelf and go.
It's the only way to go.
And programming it, well, now that I have templates for it, I don't have to worry about it. But, you know, when you have like 2 or 3 different NPT thread mills for the same NPT, you're like, crap, which one do I need to use?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
That's another thing. Standardizing your tooling, I feel like kind of falls in with that too.
Yeah. Just standardizing anything you can. It's like, man, just pays dividends. Actually, a tip that you gave, Cam, however many episodes back, make every toolpath except for your like fits optional.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even know that was a tick mark until you said that in Fusion.
Oh, really?
And now I do every single program we make is like that now.
Good.
It's fucking awesome. Yeah,
glad I could help.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I actually just did that today.
Yeah, it's great. I was showing Dustin, our other programmer, that tip today, and he was like, "Whoa, that's so sick."
Yeah, dude, that's one of my favorite things to do, because then you just like you run the whole part, measure it. Okay, I need to offset it like 7/10, and then turn on optional block skip and press go, and then it just does one fit or whatever it is, and you're done.
Yeah. Oh, and one more: connect your machines to Ethernet.
Yeah.
Stop wasting time with USB. That's ridiculous. You're walking miles for no reason. It takes I think that's probably the lowest hanging fruit I see in most shops. It's like if your machine has an Ethernet port, spend a day running, and then you're just beaming shit over to the machine like super fast. Futzing around with the USB is not fun. Do it.
I need to do it too.
Do it.
I bought the Ethernet cable to do it. I just haven't done it.
That's the problem with a lot of this stuff. Like these are all things I know I need to do. It's just a matter of, dude, I've got mist collectors. We bought mist collectors for every machine over a year ago. We have 6 machines. I have 3 installed. It's just like trying to get this stuff done takes forever.
Oh, for sure.
I'm like so task saturated. And then, you know, there's like something like installing mist collectors I don't know. I'm just very particular about how I do things. So I want to be the one to do it. I don't want to just like pass that off to anybody else in the shop, or have to like tell them to do it, but then they're doing it wrong or not how I want it done. And then I have to like kind of be annoying or a micromanager, and I don't want to be that way.
For sure.
So like I can do it. But even stuff like running Ethernet or creating templates or whatever, it's just like you're just always in go mode, and you just need to make parts and get them done.
For sure.
Forcing yourself to slow down in order to do those other things feels like counterintuitive, even though logically you know it makes sense. You should do
the
that.
Ethernet one is like, man, once you've like, I got the brother, and before I could figure out how to get that one connected, that one has like, if you open up the cabinet on the back of it, there must be 20 Ethernet ports. So I didn't know where to start. And I did like 2 weeks of the USB, but I was so used to just shooting programs over to the 2 Haas machines.
Yeah.
And then the USB port on, it's like a little finicky because the machine's like 10 years old or something. And I was like, man, this is crazy. I felt like I was in the Stone Age all of a sudden because I was just so used to it. That one's well worth the hour of time it takes. It's pretty great.
Do they all connect to the same computer?
Well, we've got my computer and then the other programmer. We can both access them from they're just on the local network.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I just put them all into like a switch, hardwired. And then for the Haas ones, you have to, I use Mac, which I'm just kind of stuck on it, just used to it. That one, you just like mount it like a server, like if it was like a remote drive. And then like right out of Fusion, like I just save it directly to the control, and I can create folders and stuff on there. And we just make the folders like match the PO number. And then on the brother, there's like an extension for Visual Studio Code that allows you to just send it from there onto the machine control.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I would have to figure out, because I've got a share drive where I'm keeping all the programs, and we do a lot of repeat parts too. So there's stuff that'll be in there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Haven't looked at it, but the guys just go grab the program and then load it on a USB, load it on the machine, and run with it.
See, it's probably not as inconvenient in your shop, I guess.
It's still pretty inconvenient, especially because I suck at programming. I have to like change stuff 7 times.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'm still going to be back and forth to the computer.
Yeah.
But those extra steps of like putting the card in, or plugging the USB card into the computer, transferring it to the computer or to the card.
For sure.
If you forget it at the machine, you gotta go back and get it.
I was just thinking that.
I've got like 90 USB cards on my desk. So
Yeah, the VFO, I had a floppy emulator. So then I had to format the USBs to think they were 1 megabyte and then like do all this. It took me like 2 minutes or 3 minutes to make like a simple post out to that machine.
Oh, man. Yeah. That sounds like a pain.
Not so bad.
Yeah. The formatting, I don't know. I think we talked about that on the last episode. Like formatting. Actually, I still got the link open from when we were talking about it, because it was formatting the PC cards. So, like, we use PC cards for really large programs that either won't fit on the control or it'll take forever to download, and it's just easier to just run it. But those things have to be formatted like a very specific way in order to run on a FANUC control.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's a nightmare whenever it's not right, because like you search the entire internet, everybody says something different about how you're supposed to do it, and you try all the different things, and like magically something just works one day, and you're like, I don't know what I did to make that work,
but I'm gonna remember that.
It works. So we've got like 2 PC cards in the shop where it's like, do not lose these freaking cards. These have to stay like, well, really, we just leave them in a control. That way, not going to go anywhere. But if something were to happen tomorrow to those 2 cards, we'd be spending hours, I'm sure, trying to figure out how to format those cards, mainly because one of our machines, that's your only option, is to run it on a PC card.
Oh, gotcha.
It's an old Lathe that we have. But yeah, there's a website that we recorded with Donnie Hinsky.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Yeah. And there's a website, I think it was CNC Specialty Store, and I believe they sell them already formatted.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I bought like a drip feed kit from that store.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to order some cards from there, and then we'll actually have some backups. But
hell yeah.
I would like to do some sort of like, I don't know, DNC situation, like the wireless, like what Brad has.
Yeah.
Or just run Ethernet to everything. I think all of our machines, except for that Johnford lathe, can run on Ethernet. And that one's got to be RS-232.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's it's a relatively cheap investment in time, and it definitely pays off.
yeah.
Hard to go backwards on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that we've ever had a guest give us, 3 tips, 4 tips?
Yeah.
I told you I'd ramble. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ty. It's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot from this episode, truth be told. So we certainly appreciate you coming on. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, very much so. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Where can the good people at home find you if they want to watch your adventures?
Just on Instagram at Neff Machine. I don't post a lot, mostly the stories, but so you gotta be quick.
That's all for this episode of the Impractical Machinist podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the Practical Machinist YouTube channel so you never miss an episode.
Also, give us a like or a 5-star rating if you enjoyed this episode. Drop a comment down below of what you learned from us or to share your own experience. And spread the word. Let your fellow machinists know about us.
If you have any follow-up questions, you can DM us on Instagram, the Practical Machinist Forum, or Discord. Check out our Instagrams as well at JobShopperTN, at Machining is Cool, at Marble Machining, and be sure to follow Ty at Neff Machine.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Keep those chips flying.